What's up, y'all, and welcome into the Jack Vita and Stephanie Mitchell show.
Welcome.
How's it going, everyone? So today we are here to recap the second episode of Deal or No Deal Island Season 2. And this is off the heels of our exit interview with Sydnee, the latest contestant eliminated. Thank you guys all for joining us. Make sure you guys hit subscribe here on the channel so you don't miss out on any of the content we have coming out. We're also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Just subscribe to Jack Vita Show wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Jack Vita Show Entertainment, because we also have a sports feed. But if you guys want the sports, go and subscribe to that show as well. Today, we're going to break down the second episode, Deal or No Deal Island. Steph, great seeing you once again.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Jack. You know it.
Always fun. We're going to have so much fun covering the show together all season long. Today, we were thinking, let's bring one of our friends along for the ride. So we've got a guest joining us. Steph, who did you hook us up with this week as a guest?
Well, you guys may know her and love her as the runner-up from Deal or No Deal Season 1, Amy McCoy. And I'm sure she's going to have beautiful insight. Hey, Amy.
Hey, I am so honored to be a guest on this show. I love Jack Vita so much. I think he does an excellent job with interviewing and doing all things DONDI. So I'm so excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
Well, we love you too, Amy. So there's that.
I'm glad you do. I don't think America loved me too much, but I'm glad you guys do.
Well, so guys, let's talk about this latest episode of Deal or No Deal Island, and we got to start with really just the headliner here. Sydnee goes home, and I just spoke with her moments before we started recording this with the exit interview. I imagine Sydnee is going through a rough time right now with a lot of, I mean, if you just look through Twitter, it's a lot of mean tweets, really.
Twitter,
you guys both experienced some of that in your own right. You know that it's a heavily edited show. I'm just going to start by saying, before we get into nuts and bolts of all the strategy, I do have a lot of compassion and sympathy for Sydnee, because in my interactions with her with this interview, I thought she seemed like a very kind person who honestly has lived a little bit of a rough life. I think she's gone through a lot in her life. She talked a little bit about that in the exit interview. So by plug here, people go check out that exit interview for more of a look into Sydnee. But Amy, what'd you think of Sydnee?
So behind the scenes, figuratively behind the scenes, season 1, we did like a bracketology where we picked like who we thought would be really good without knowing anything about them, just off cast photos. And she was one of my top picks. I think she's beautiful. I think she embraces what it is to be, she's not 6 foot tall model. She's not, really short, chunky suburban mom like me. I feel like in my opinion, she was just a beautiful young woman that to me looks like just, the average woman that you would see on the street. So I love that. I felt like she might be a little bit of an underdog going into it just based off the pictures, because as we see on season 1, there's a lot of athletes. There's a lot of celebrity, 3 people that are already celebrities and known to the world. So I really picked her as one of my top ones. Coming from season 1 and knowing filming and knowing, they had air conditioning this year. We didn't, but knowing how like the heat gets to you and being away from family and friends and trying to form bonds with people that are going to essentially be your family the next 30 days. I know how hard it is. It looks like she did have a rough time on the island. But I hated to see her go. I thought she was entertaining. I thought that she was someone that's not afraid to speak her mind. Obviously, episode 1, she's like, shh, everybody be quiet. But when you're at Temple and you're in the heat of the moment and you're not a celebrity that's done this for a living, you're not used to being on TV. Like, you get real raw emotion. Like, this is who I am. If I'm under stress, this is who I am, So I really, really hated to see her go. I really was hoping that she would make it a lot further. But again, knowing that environment and how much pressure to say or do the wrong thing or look the right way in front of the, I know it's also very, very hard day in and day out to do that, And so if you make it to the very end, you're there 25, however many days you're there, a very long time. This isn't filmed in 2 or 3 nights. So mentally it's a lot. Physically it's a lot. Emotionally it's a lot. So I know she's having a hard time. I know, like you said, Twitter and things. Steph can attest to this. I got hate mail after hate mail after hate mail. You shouldn't be on TV. You're ugly. You're fat. You're too short. Oh my God, you're a terrible mom and wife. And like you can't listen to those people. Those people are couch warriors saying whatever the crap they think they can say. Like, don't listen to them people. The fact that you were on the show, you made it, you spoke your mind. The fact that you were able to get this far, I am a Sydnee fan.
Yes. Nice. Well said, Amy. Well said. I completely agree. I was absolutely looking forward to seeing Sydnee. I thought she was very dynamic. I thought she was going to bring a lot of entertainment, whether it's good or bad, doesn't matter. Like, I want to see dynamic characters. I want to see people who are effervescent and a little erratic, maybe strange, maybe, I don't want to see the boring people. I want to see people who have a story, who I want to watch for good or bad. And like our previous episode, Jack, as you recall, Sydnee was one on my list of people to watch. And so I'm super disappointed to see her go because the camera loved her. I thought she would have been wonderful to continue to watch this season, good or bad. And so I hate to see her go. But chin up, Sydnee. You made it this far. A lot of people didn't. They saw something in you. America sees something in you. So chin up, girl. Like, you did good. You did good.
And I saw something in her because, Steph and I were not afraid to like draw lines in the sand. Like, we're not going to play your game. I don't want anybody to drag me along on their coattails. Like, I felt like Sydnee was a very strong, like, I'm going to play my game. I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm going to do what I want to do. If I have an opinion, I'm going to voice it. And you have to have those personalities on shows like this or it would be boring.
Totally.
Yeah. I loved Sydnee. I'm a Sydnee fan. I follow her on Instagram. She's gorgeous. And I wish her nothing but the best. Don't listen to the haters if you are, because that's just what they are, haters.
She made it very clear in our interview that once she found out that David was married, she really backed off. And she was actually really hurt by the way that she felt that she trusted him on the show and really confided in him about a lot of things, personal things as well, such as she talks about having autoimmune disease and suffering from that in our interview, which was never talked about on the show. And to see him kind of like making fun of her behind her back to the cameras, that was something that I think was one of the really harder things that she dealt with this show.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. And there's a lot of things that you don't get to see until it airs. And some of it can be shocking. So that's something I'm sure she's had to deal with and will continue to deal with. But she'll get over it. I mean, David, what is he? The golden who? What is he? The golden what?
Golden God.
Golden God of, yeah.
I don't know, but like, I'm sure he's not going to be a mainstay of her life. He's a person who was in her life for a moment, for an opportunity, a situation. And, and I'm sure she'll get over that rather quickly. It can be disappointing because think about it. What other position are we in life where we truly get to hear what people say about us? Not often. Right. So that can be tough.
And it's so hard because, like I said earlier, you've met these strangers. Like, I was a couch warrior too. I watched Big Brother, Amazing Race, Survivor. Like, I love these shows. And I'm like, why are you crying? You only met her 4 days ago. Like, why are you crying over this person? You're there to kick their butt and win money. But when Miranda went home, I lost it because these people, Miranda was my tent mate. Golden God Dave or whatever, he was her tent mate. So you have relationships in these tents with people that you think, hey, when you go in the tent and you zip it up and it's ready for bed, and whether you have microphones or not, it's like, oh, this is my safe haven. These are my friends. I live with, and you feel some sense of security, like, game or not, like, they care about what I have to say. And some of them don't. They're still playing the game behind the tent. So I understand. If Miranda would have betrayed me or anything like that, and I thought we were close, I would have been devastated. I would have been heartbroken. So I get where Sydnee's saying. You kind of feel like these people are just people that you're just trying to beat for a game, but they become so much more. And so if she really thought she had a friend in David, and then it turns out she didn't, that hurts. That really does hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I like what you brought up about sharing the living quarters, because while I have not played reality TV yet,
yes,
I haven't played yet. When it reminds me of college, when you move in and like I had this dorm my sophomore year, and it was like there are probably 24 to 30 guys who just suddenly become your brothers. It's like these are the guys that, and they annoy the crap out of you. And there's certain things you're just like, sometimes you get upset with them for like, come on, like turn down your music, or, you know, get that girl out of your room, or I want to go to sleep, or whatever it is. But then it's kind of like you kind of look out for each other. And then when you see someone else maybe giving them a hard time, you like really care for them. So
yeah,
that's kind of what I could picture that being somewhat like reality show being like that.
Totally. Yeah, and I think it doesn't show, like, I don't think this season 1 showed as close as, like, Steph and I got, or Miranda and I got, you know, because they have this narrative to make a good show. So one thing we don't see behind the scenes on season 1 is I think that maybe Sydnee and David, you know, the way she acted, like, hey, we were friends. Like, there's probably conversations we didn't see that he was like, hey, I got your back, you got my back. I mean, there was obviously some kind of friendship bond there that was a little deeper than what we saw on TV. So it's a heavily edited show that people can just get these false narratives, or, you know, another contestant said such and such, and so said such and such. And so it's really just heavily edited that they can make you think whatever you want, which is why social media just goes up and thinks, you know, they called me and Steph bullies, or Sydnee cuckoo, or whatever they said. Like, that is far from the truth. Like, it's almost irritating. I let it get under my skin for a couple of weeks, and then I was like, these people don't know me. They see a TV show that they've built a character out of. So they can build whatever character they want. Doing interviews and Sydnee get to tell her side of the story is what's most important in my books. Like, you get to hear straight from the horse's mouth what actually went down, instead of believing rumors or whatever your castmates maybe saying on Instagram or whatever. So, you know, it is what it is. They wanted to make a good show, but at the end of the day, we're all people. We're humans. We have lives. We have careers. We have families. We have husbands. And, like, get to know the real person before you cast a judgment on who you think they are, because it's literally a character that was made out for a show.
Well said, Amy. Well said. Yeah. That's great advice for folks who are novice to this new world of competitive reality. That's great advice.
What's the funniest? Let's try to have a sense of humor about this. What's the funniest thing? Something that someone said that was nasty or negative or whatever. They're making fun of you. That you're like, oh, that's pretty funny. I laughed at that. I'll give you guys mine. I got called an industry plant. Steph is on that one on a podcast.
I thought that was funny.
Oh my God.
That is, I mean, I have to tell you, like, I don't even read into it. I mean, for people to just, I got an email the other day. It was a nasty email to my business email. I was like, oh, like, I was like, what do you mean? So you just try not to play into it. I literally don't play it. I don't give it any credence at all. I'm very strong. I have a strong continence of who I am. I know who I am as a person. I have a kind spirit. I'm like a burnt marshmallow, hard and crispy on the outside, but very gooey and soft on the inside. So funny, mean, or otherwise, I truly, truly pay it all the same, which is unfortunately not a lot. I just don't pay it any attention.
Probably one of the funniest things I read, and I didn't even read it, my husband read it and pointed it out to me, was, oh my God, her poor husband, he has to live with her. Oh my God, what a miserable marriage. And I look at my husband and I'm like, nobody's perfect by no means. Like, we are not perfect, but we are best friends. We are goo-goo in love. Like, I wore this necklace on the show. It doesn't come off. Like, this is, like, it says, it's a heart and it says DNA. And, like, he's my best friend. He's my soulmate. I say every day, like, I cannot believe I get to live this fairy tale life with him, because, like I said, we're not perfect by no means, but we found each other later in life. You know, like, we've only been together 10 years. I had kids, he had kids, but, you know, like, we really found the one when we found each other. So for all of our friends and family that know, like, us and our love story and how much we love each other, it's so hilarious to read something like that, because I'm like, if you guys only knew, like, but I think it's funny. I laugh at it because I'm like, you don't know, and I don't give two craps to explain to you. You know, I don't care what you think. I know I'm living my truth, but that was the funniest one because my husband was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I have to live with Cruella DeVille. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he shows me. So we laugh about it now. But yeah, there's some pretty funny stuff that goes on.
So in this episode, something that I found really interesting, game related, because obviously Sydney goes out, CK and Lachelle pick her to go. Sydney gives a speech. There's no real reason to dive too much more into that. We covered it all. But one thing I thought was really interesting, if you want to talk strategy and gameplay, is there's this whole thing that we get before Temple where Parvati is like, ooh, we should keep Sydney here. She's a distraction. She's a threat. Yep. Like, they started calling her a threat, which it seemed like it was more just, I think the better word might have been shield. Because, I mean, she was telling me that she could not do those physical competitions with her health condition. I don't think they were threatened by her, but she was a distraction. They all kind of were concentrated on wanting to get her out. So you keep her around longer, then it takes longer for them to look at David and Parvati. Parvati verbalizes it. It's smart gameplay if you're playing her game. But the thing that I found really interesting is that CK was not down for playing Parvati's game. She was like, they made it even look like a little bit, like it sounded kind of like an edited confessional of like, oh, well, you know, she wants me to do this, but like she's doing that because like she identified correctly what Parvati was going for, because she knows that. She even said something about she wants to focus on that threat so that way they won't go after other threats like her. But she does the opposite of what Parvati suggested. So the reason why I found this really interesting is there were people, shouldn't say a lot, but there were people on your season who were down to play Rob's game. And we saw a lot of it early on, and then later in the season, the Night Owls are formed, and we get to see... Yeah!
I had to, I'm sorry.
Let's go. The Night Owls are formed, and we start to see, like, the cracks and the people who are kind of... Even someone like Nick, who was in with him early, and then some people are like, okay, let's get this guy out of here. But it's like the second episode, and they're not playing Parvati's game. I found that really intriguing.
I really think that being like season 1 and looking back, watching season 1 and watching season 2, I think that season 2 was able to learn a lot from season 1. We went in blind, you know, we went in halfway knowing the game. We had the rules explained, but we're living it as we are. So I think that getting to watch season 1, like if I would have been a contestant on season 2 and not season 1, one of the flaws or one of the biggest things I would have been as a viewer is, why did you not get Rob out? Why did you not get Rob out sooner? Like he's a celebrity, blah, blah, blah. So I really think and I hope that part of CK's strategy was seeing, like, if you don't get these bigwigs that know how to manipulate and play the game, that have won games, that know how to be on TV out, it's going to bite you. You know, it's going to bite you. I did beat Rob out of the maze by quite a few. Like, it looked on TV closer. He cheated, but had he not cheated off me and got the time penalty, he would have easily beat me out of the maze. So I'm hoping that CK learned from season 1. Like, you do have to you can't wait till the end to try to get the big fish out, because the big fish are going to eat you alive. So I'm hoping she learned something from season 1. And I was actually kind of happy in that moment. Like, okay, we're not going to have a drag the celebrities on to the end. You know what I mean? I was glad that she really like played her own game in that moment. So I thought that was a good move. I was proud of her for doing what she wanted to do and not being influenced by one of the celebrities on the show.
I agree. I think it was a good move for CK to do what she wanted to do. But two things can be true. I also happen to like that strategy of Parvati's. I do think Sydney would have been a great shield. I do think she would have added a very interesting dynamic, and Parvati had a point. She had a very good point. And CK, don't sleep. Like, honey, when she says a shield, baby, that could be for you too, CK. Like, she could be a distraction down the line to save you along the way, because we have seen some rumbling. CK, not everybody's going to like you. I already see that. Like you. Yeah. So, you know, but I think all is fair. It would have been pointless, I think, to send Rock home. So I think what had to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree with you with like Sydnee. I think actually really sad she's gone. I really am. I would have rather CK go home than Sydnee, in my opinion. Like I was really hoping that this is terrible, but I was really hoping that they lost to the banker because I wanted Sydnee to stay. And I like Rock too. I like Sydnee and Rock both. I didn't want to see either one of them go home. So deep inside, I'm like, no, 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 no. And I know the odds were in their favor. And I really feel like if they would have won, that CK would have been the one to go home and not Lachelle.
Absolutely.
So I was really hoping that it was CK that went home. I mean, she did do her own thing and go against Parvati, which I liked. I like a person that's going to play their own game, stand up for themselves. But I'm just not a CK fan. Like, I don't know why. I'm just not getting good vibes like that. I want her to go far in the game. So I was really hoping she went home and Sydnee stayed. But here we are. Here we are.
Okay, someone who impressed me in this episode, Phillip.
Yes.
You know what's funny is we started to talk about him in the first episode, and then we ended up sidetracked talking about something else. So we really didn't give him any flowers in the first episode. I thought he came off well in that first episode. Obviously, there are a lot of things going on, so we only got a chance to talk about each cast member for 30 seconds or whatever. But I mean, I think he played things really well in this episode. He and Parvati ended up changing the game with Dr. Will, which we'll talk about in a second. But I think his reads really sounded correct. I think he seems like one of the people on this show who's really got more of a lighthearted, easygoing attitude, who's just kind of like every time you look at him, the guy's got a smile on his face. He's laughing, he's smiling. He looks like he's making good friends with people. I think he's a threat to win this whole thing. I really do. And I liked how he said he identified Parvati as a threat and was just kind of like, okay, I'll just kind of go along with this for now because we won this thing. I'll kind of let her, make a decision of who we're going to put in. But it was almost like he gave us a wink to the audience. Like, I'm not doing this the whole time. Like, stay tuned.
Keep your friends close, your enemies closer.
Exactly. I think Phillip said this episode, I know that I can trust Parvati to a point, but what's that point? That's right, Phillip. What's that point? And will you be aware of that point before that point gets there? Because Parvati is an incredible player. She's incredibly strategic. She has a smile that's out of this world. I think that's what keeps her ahead of the game. So I'm super proud of Phillip. I think we've heard in terms of our confessional count, Phillip was almost heading the pack. Parvati was number 1. Sydnee was number 2 as being the person eliminated. And then Phillip came in number 3. And I was very happy to hear from him this episode.
Yeah, I like Phillip. I think that, early on he said that he's a school teacher. He can read a room. And, it's not like being on a TV show, especially up against people that, like I said, have done this for a living or as a career. It's almost intimidating at first. But I love the analogy he gave, like, hey, I have to manipulate little children to be quiet or to get excited or, whatever all day long. And that's such a good analogy because you're going into almost like virgin brains. Like these people have not been on TV. They don't know how to work a camera or a crowd, like I mentioned earlier. So I really think that he is on to Parvati, and I know she's the Black Widow, but I really, really think that he's going to be the one to pounce before she does. I think that he knows she's a threat. And then on the previews, I don't know if it's like next week or the week after, but on the previews, it shows that Dr. Will outs Parvati to everybody that she was on Survivor. And so I think that's going to make his little ears perk up even more and be like, yeah, I'm going to have to be the one to strike first or know that I'm just a pawn in her game. Like we're not really going to be true ride or die to the end alliance per se. So yeah, that's going to be interesting because I think that's going to be a point where those two have to bump heads eventually. And so I'm excited to see, because he does have a smile on his face. He's just like, ha ha, nonchalant. But when there's millions of dollars at play, that smile will come off real easy if somebody crosses you, So yep. I'm excited to see how that little alliance works out.
Dr. Will, this thing is just so funny. I mean, like, there's so much to break down with this. Well, first of all, if they don't open that Dr. Will is still going to be on the show. Like, come on.
Yeah.
They're not flying him out there. They're not paying him whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, it was really funny that this aired within a few days of the Traitors premiere with your guys' friend, Robert Mariano.
Robert.
I know Steph likes to call him Robert.
From Boston.
Robert from Boston. That's his name. It's Robert.
I mean, so, and I'll take a little detour here for a second. Unfortunately, We're not covering Traitors on the Jack Vita Show this season every week. Steph LaGrossa, she doesn't have time. I don't have time. But I figured we could still talk about it a little bit on this podcast. And what perfect way with Rob being on Traitors. But this was like it felt so much like the same exact thing that they tried to do with Rob, where they're like,
bingo.
Okay, we got this clever twist where we're going to bring this big target into the game, this big character, and they couldn't bring him into the game, so they had this alternative door of how else they were going to bring him into the game. And that's what I think would have happened with Dr. Will, too. Dr. Will would have entered the game in some way.
Let me just say, there's something struck my nerve about this being called the banker's bonus, because this is now 2 seasons in a row where the banker's bonus is not a bonus. So, players beware. Players beware. If it's a banker's bonus, take that with a little grain of salt, because most of the time it seems like a bonus is not going to be in your best interest. So, regardless, because it was Phillip and Parvati who came across the shed a tear. Thanks, Joe. Super cute. They came across that first, and then the second people who came across it was Rock and Sydnee. It was going in. Dr. Will has an appearance bonus. Appearance fee, I'm sure. It costs to get him in there. He's the dynamic character. He's what did he call himself? The reality show disruptor. He's getting in the game. Same way as Robert from Boston is getting in the game regardless. So it was silly. It's not a bonus, whatever.
One thing that bothered me, and maybe as a viewer, I don't think people cared, but one thing that really bothered me, I love Dr. Will. I loved him on Big Brother. You already know, as America's bully, I don't care if you go in and stir up chaos. Like, I love the chaotic, like everything all in shambles. I love that. But one thing that bothered me is, like, he just got a bye for week 1. Like, he didn't have to compete. He didn't have to decide to go you don't get to see his gameplay if he would have went for a red case or a high value or wanted to play in the middle. Like, to me, season 1, like showing who, like, Kim jumped back in the mud to go for a red case because she knew her butt was on the line. I don't like that we didn't get to see what we think Dr. Will would do episode 1, to see kind of where his head's at, what his strategy, his gameplay is going to be. We got to see it with David, the Golden God. We got to see him kick back and see who's going to get what case. Like, we saw a little bit of where his mind was at. Dr. Will just got to pass. Like, oh, guess what? No matter what, you get to make it till at least season 2. I get viewers probably don't care, but as someone that's done this show, I would have been heated if I busted my butt in season 1 challenge, made it through Temple, and then somebody just gets to walk on as a shining star at Temple 2 with no care in the world. Like, that really bothered me so bad as a viewer.
And that same thing happened with Robert on Traitors.
Yeah, yes. That was silly. Oh, that was so silly. Anyway, I don't even hardly want to get into it. It felt like there was not any integrity to the game with that move. Like, it wouldn't have made a difference in Traitors, because as we recall, I don't even know which season, because you guys know my memory is like that of a goldfish. But remember that first season, one of the seasons of Traitors, like, you could very much get eliminated before even making it into the castle. Like, give him a chance, let him stand there, let someone shake Alan's hand. If it didn't work out, oh well, send your tail on back to Boston or wherever your current abode is. But that wasn't what the plan was. The plan was he was going to be in the game. So put him in the game. Put him in the game.
From the jump, just put him in there.
What are you doing?
That's how I feel about Dr. Will. I'm like, if he's going to be on the show, just put him in. Let's see his strategy. Let's see if he tries to go form a little celebrity alliance with the other 3. Like, he just got to walk right on. Like, I'm just here to kick butt and take names. And, like, I don't know. I didn't like that. I didn't like that he just got a pass on season 1 or on excursion 1. Sorry.
Well, it was pretty funny with Traitors. I had 2 different people in my life who were texting me who were like, WTF, that's it for Rob, what? And I'm like, I know, isn't that so weird? Like, I just played along with it. And then at the end of the episode, when he came back, they're like, whoa!
Jack, you should have seen me. I was like, when he, first of all, because we know Rob's going to be there, right? So when he has the little cloak on, I'm like, I know who this is. Takes it off, it's Rob. I'm like, here he goes.
It's
and then
so obvious.
I'm like, oh, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles. And then he comes back. I'm like, I was through a roller coaster of emotion.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Hey, I was
big
like,
miss,
up
by
and
the
down.
way.
What's that?
Big miss. I'm not just saying this because you're doing the podcast with me. Big miss that they didn't have Steph on with Rob. Like, how much fun would that be if they had Steph with Rob on Traitors and everyone's got to find out? Are they going to try to work together or what's going to happen?
I'm killing you immediately. And we're just going to have to try to make it work. We're just going to have to shuffle through. You're dead night 1. And they're going to be like, Stephanie, that's you. No,
I would have loved, and not just because it's me, but I would have absolutely loved, because America hated Steph and I. We went against Rob, blah, blah. Like, put me and Steph in the castle together, baby. You want to see some chaos? Put me and Steph in the castle, because I can guarantee you, we will put Rob to shame. I mean, we're gonna live up to our. We're the villains of the season, which we were not at all. Like, Rob just got the awesome spotlight, and good for him. But like I said, some of these people have done this for a living. Like, you saw Raw and Real, Amy and Steph. It's a battle for millions of dollars. Like, I'm not here to make friends. I did make great friends that I will have for life, but that was in my headspace going into it, But yeah.
I was surprised that they didn't want to cross promote and bring on, like, it's the same network. There are things that I don't understand. I don't know why Deal or No Deal Island and Traitors are running at the same time. You should have one feed into the other, like we had with season 1. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I don't understand why you aren't trying to cast more people from this brand that you're building. So Deal or No Deal Island is now a hit show with NBC, Traitors on Peacock. Mm-hmm. Why aren't you developing stars of new people that you're putting on Deal or No Deal Island and then putting them on Traitors? And then you've got this little universe, like a Marvel universe with your own NBC reality people. And I don't understand why they didn't do that. But back to Dr. Will. The thing that I think is so, like, silly is, like, did they just tell him to come on and you have to be, like, the antagonist? Like, it felt like he's doing, like, a Howie impression of what Howie was supposed to do as the banker. Like, it didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel real. It felt very performative.
What I felt from Dr. Will which is Dr. Evil himself, from those who are unaware, which I just want to do a quick little side thing, because Letty very much didn't know who Dr. Will was. So I had to go back and take a quick little, I'm going to investigate. Letty's 27 years old, or was at the time of filming. When Dr. Will won season 2 of Big Brother, Letty was 4. When Dr. Will came back on in 2006, Letty was 9. Okay, but Dr. Will, when he presented himself on that boat and said, y'all had $1, which CK was very mad about that. You guys only banked $1. He was giving me the energy of Dr. Evil confessionals in Big Brother, because his confessionals were gnarly. And that is what gave him such a wonderful global storyline. This is why we love Dr. Will, because he's an antagonist, he's a manipulator, he's a troublemaker, and this is exactly everything I want to see. I don't feel like if it was put on in the character that we know Dr. Will can bring. And so I was like, yeah, that checks out. And I think we're going to continue to see him being that antagonistic, troublemaking rabble rouser, and I'm here for it.
I'm here for it too. One thing that gets me is, like, people are like, oh, America's Bully, or he's Captain Psycho, or he's evil, or whatever. Like, if you like season 1, if you had a show where everybody just grabbed Rob's coattail and just lollygagged to the end, it would have been boring. It wouldn't have been a show. Like, you have to have people that are there to really fight and play the game and stir up. Like what I said, I don't mind chaos. Keep everybody's heads spinning 5,000 different ways. That's what makes good TV. That's what shows you that you're really, really fighting to win this game, whether you're doing it for the money or whether you're doing it, like I think Rob said several times, he did the show just to see if he could still compete at 50 years old. Whatever reason you chose to do this show, do it with 110%. And I love that. I love Dr. Will. I never want like Rob, Dr. Will, Parvati. I can never say her name, Parvati, to win, because I know they already have a platform, they already have money, they already have I want an average Joe to win. So glad Jordan won. So, but I do want to see Dr. Will go far, because I know he's going to bring the freaking heat.
Yes.
I know he's going to bring the heat.
And were you like, did you have to go back and refresh yourself about his Chilltown alliance from Big Brother?
Him and Boogie? Yeah.
Yes. Like, did you recall, like, Dr. Will, it thrives on being able to create chaos amongst the others and kind of scooch on by. And he's always played also a flawless social game. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he still has those skills to be able to hone those skills, because a social game is very, very important. Remember, because you go to the temple and you don't have those connections. The only thing people have to do is look at you and point at you and send you home.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's why the night owls were so important. Like, I think Jack asked me this. A lot of people said, getting an alliance in this game is silly. Like, it's just, you don't need an alliance. And I'm like, you do, because I knew Miranda played, I played, you played, Nick played, Dawson played. I knew those 5 weeks I wasn't going to be touched. So it is so important to play a good social game. Yeah, at the end of the day, maybe it comes down to luck, or if you go all the way to end like I did, 50-50 chance if you beat the baker. But at the same time, every little seat sitting in there is somebody that is coming for you, whether you know it or not, you know? So I don't know. I think I love Dr. Will. I've loved Dr. Will. I loved Evil Dick. I love Rachel Riley. Like, I love the people that create the chaos, that aren't afraid to speak their mind, because you're not playing scared. Like, this is who I'm going to be day one. Love me or hate me. I really don't give a crap. I'm here to play. So I'm thrilled. If I was a contestant on season 2 and Dr. Will pulled up, in that boat, I would probably have turned around and thrown up immediately on camera. I would have been nauseously sick, because I know how good he is. But as a viewer, baby, on season 2, I cannot wait.
I do think it's going to be fun. And what I think is really interesting about it is in the promos, is it's Dr. Will against Parvati and David. It's not the three of them together. So you're going to potentially see a couple of coalitions. Maybe there's a different coalition that just says, let's get them all out. But this is going to be a very interesting battle, very interesting war, and I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Agree. I love it. What do you think about CK being offended by Dr. Will and being so vociferous about her disdain for that? Do you think that was a good move or a bad move?
No.
When Joe asked about that, what do you think?
I think maybe she doesn't. I don't know how old she is. Maybe she doesn't know who Dr. Will is. Maybe she does. I don't know. But any person in that seat, when you have a new, like, in my opinion, you have to fill them out. You have to just see, you know, I wouldn't have spoke. I'm a very, very good at speaking my mind. I have no problem speaking my mind. But to be the only one that spoke up and was like, $1, like, you already are on Dr. Will's bad side immediately. You already have no chance. He's already looking at you as like, you're a peasant. You're nobody to me. I don't need you. So I don't know. I wouldn't have spoke up. I'm kind of glad she did, because, like I said, from a viewer standpoint, I'm not a CK fan. She doesn't do anything to excite me. I don't like, she didn't stand out to me. So I didn't care that she spoke up. It kind of put a target on her back from Dr. Will. So I didn't care about that. But if I was in her spot, I would have sat there and kept my mouth shut and not said a word.
You know what it reminded me of is Amy might understand this reference, because Amy's a sports fan.
Yeah.
I do a lot of baseball reporting, and I spend a lot of time with baseball press boxes. It reminded me of one of those pitchers that takes offense to a guy hitting a home run and chucking his bat up in the air or something like that.
Yes.
There's an incident that occurred about 5 years ago. Madison Bumgarner and Max Muncy. Max Muncy hit a home run into McCovey Cove out in San Francisco, that beautiful bay outside of the park. Just clobbered this home run. He was a little over celebratory. Bumgarner told him to put his head down and run around the bases, and then Muncy said, "Go out and get that ball out of the ocean for me."
Yeah. I mean, but that's what
it reminded me of.
That's what I've said, Parvati. I don't love her, but I don't hate her. She talks a really big game. Can you back it up? But Dr. Will can back it up. Now, like you said, he hasn't been on TV in a while. His age, whatever, can he back it up? But I think he's going to give 120% to back up anything he says. But that's with sports people. You can, Patrick Mahomes, you can talk a big game. You can say whatever you want. But my money's on that he can probably back up what he says. He's proven to be a great quarterback. Dr. Will is proven to be a great player. So to pop off like CK did, I think that was a no-no.
She popped off twice. Because when her and Lachelle were up there and she was giving her rationale for why Sydnee needed to go, she also very pointedly said, "We have a new target in the game, Dr. Will." And I was like, girl, that was probably not smart. You didn't need to do all that. That was unnecessary.
That was not your smart. Yeah, that was not. But again, as a viewer, I don't really care that she said it. I was like, okay, yeah, keep talking so you can be the next target to go. Because I didn't want Sydnee to go. So I was already kind of in my feelings that I knew they were going to send Sydnee home. So I was up there keep talking. I hope you're the one that goes home. Because like I said, CK doesn't excite me as a viewer. Sydnee did. So...
Well,
I just keep popping off.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying she can keep popping off, and Dr. Will can go after her, and I would just be delighted.
I'm curious, who do you guys think could potentially be allies for Dr. Will? Because obviously we're seeing one thing that's been very much shown to us is this faction of Parvati, David, and Dixon. But we don't really know where anyone else stands. Now, we did get the indicator that CK wasn't going to play Parv's game this week. But then CK is also not into the Dr. Will thing either. So I'm curious who you guys think could potentially be allies of Dr. Will's.
Maria, Lachelle,
I'm thinking Storm.
Oh, girl.
I'm thinking Storm. I know we see on episodes Maria, Grace, and Storm making out or whatever. But I think that Maria, she's kind of quiet, but I think she takes it in. So I think that, as much time as mom and dad, which that is so cringy to me, as much time as Parvati and the Golden God or whatever are hanging out with Dixon, I think that's just obvious. Those three are working together. And then Phillip and Parvati opening the thing together. They're kind of bonded a little bit. And I think some of the strong players like Storm, Seychelles, like you said, Steph, I think they probably can observe and see who's going off and talking by themselves and who's doing this and who's doing that. I think being a new celebrity or well-known person that's not I think if you're not working with mom, dad, and Dixon, again, cringe, if you're not working with them three, that you probably migrate to Dr. Will. And especially if him and Parvati publicly go at it, that's kind of like the Night Owls and Rob. Here's the line drawn, pick your side. It's kind of hard to play the middle. Jordan did play the middle, which worked out really well for her. But it's really hard to play the middle. The Night Owls were on to oh, yeah, Jordan's probably playing a little bit of both sides. But I feel like there's going to be some lines drawn, and I think it's definitely going to be, here's Dr. Will, here's Parvati, and what's his Golden God, Great God? I don't know. David. I don't know. Here's Parvati and David, and here's Dr. Will. Because, again, I think that they're just making it very obviously that they're working together. So Dr. Will's not going to have any of that. He's going to have to be the leader of the group or not at all. And we know Parvati's really headstrong. So there can't be two leaders. So I think Dr. Will is going to go off, and I think Storm, Seychelles, I think the stronger players that aren't up Poverty's butt are going to migrate to Dr. Will.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
That's a great analysis, Amy. I think you're probably pretty close.
Now, the thing is, they don't know that David played a show before. Maybe some of them are figuring it out. I mean, you can only hide something like that for so long. At a certain point, you got to be like, why is this Australian guy here? And him and Parvati seem to have a lot in common. And, you know, maybe it comes out in just little things. And that's where you see the promo, Dr. Will saying, what show did you win? Like, he's kind of like, I'm on to you sort of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe that gets blown up too. In which case, I mean, would you rather be on the side of 2 reality TV winners or 1? I think it's much. I think Dr. Will, obviously, he's coming in right now. So, you know, an episode or 2 from now, he might have somebody who's his version of what that faction is. You know, he's not calling him mom, but he's got some close ally.
Yeah.
But I mean, if Dr. Will's coming in, it's like, okay, I can work a little more with this guy. He doesn't have some kind of person up here where I feel like the way the show has made it, it's made it look really obvious that is a very tight 3. And if you join that group, you're number 4.
I think that's a great analysis. Jack, but it'll be yet to be seen. But I think since Dr. Will came in as an advertised big winner and these other 2, Parvati, David, were not, he's going to get that playing field leveled real quick. He's going to get that. He's going to find even ground real quick. That's going to need to be his priority. And if he wants longevity in the game.
Yeah, and I think that would make me migrate. I know Jack said, you know, which side would you want to be on? I would not. I would go towards, if we're right and our analogy is it's mom and dad versus Dr. Will, I would navigate towards Dr. Will's side. Just because there's 2 celebrities per se that are really, really good. Like, I would hide behind Dr. Will and let Dr. Will and my side try to pick off David and Poverty, and, you know, because at this point it's 3 celebrities. If Dr. Will goes after these 2 celebrities and we can get them off, then the rest of us are only battling 1 celebrity. Then we can realign and focus all on getting that celebrity off. So I think you have to do it in sections, or, you know, piece by piece. Like, first, let's get rid of, you know, I would be all Dr. Will. Let's get rid of them. But then as soon as the numbers outweighed Dr. Will, then I would do my own little alliance and be like, okay, now they have to get out the 3rd celebrity. So I would go more towards Dr. Will.
He's not going to, the problem with that approach is he would never even allow that to happen, because in the meanwhile, he's going to make sure that there are bigger fish to fry. So, I mean, it's really tough because these big players drag along until it's just too late and all of the small fish are fried. So it's tough. That approach is like, technically it's great. I think Kim in season 1 was like, yeah, we'll get rid of Rob, but let's wait till, you know, excursion 7, where it's like, baby, by the time you wait till excursion 7, the roots are already planted. Like, you can't do that. But so it's going to be really hard because of the way things are set up. So at the end of the day, we're going to have a group of people that make it close or very close to the end. I don't think the casual players, the non-competitive reality players, are going to be able to organize as quick as they need to in order to develop a plan that is going to succinctly and accurately get these people out. So that's just what it is. We will be seeing these people with longevity. Parvati, David, Dr. Will, period.
Yeah. Just like Rob, a few of us tried from the beginning, like, knowing, you know, but we just, you know, he had people, you know, Nick there for a little bit. He had Alyssa, he had Aaron, like, he had Claudia, Jamil, like, he did have people that were like, oh, give him a fair chance, you know, and I'm like, this is a game, like, but I think you're right. I think that they know how to manipulate. They, like I said, they know how to work people. They've done, this is what I said about Rob. When you're on a TV show with someone who's made a career out of doing this, it's really a compliment to Rob that we wanted to get him out. It shows that he is a threat. It shows that he knows how to do, you know what I mean? He knows how to play these games. But yeah, in the end, we were called bullies for trying to get Rob out. But like, it's the game. You know, it's the name of the game. He knows how to do this, and he did it well. He did it well on season 1. He had smoothed so many people, and I think that's what Parvati and Dr. Will and Golden Greek God. I can't ever get that right. I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to come off as genuine, compassionate people, but they have no problem at the end of the day stabbing you in the throat because this is this is nothing but a game to them. This isn't making true friends on an island. This is a game. So I think you're right, Steph. I think they're going to go far. I think they're going to schmooze, manipulate, and do any and everything they need to do. I don't know. Seychelles the one I'm watching close. Seychelles is my number one. I love her. If she won the whole game, I would be ecstatic because she plays very like Steph and I. Very like, I'm going to say what I'm feeling. It's on my face. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. And if you want to target me because of what I said, okay, I'm sorry. Like, she's really playing, from what I've seen so far, what she's playing her game, and she will speak her mind, and she doesn't care. Like, I'm going to do me no matter what. I love that. I love that as a viewer.
Amy, you mentioned Seychelles kind of at the top of your power rankings. CK sounds like she's at the bottom of your power rankings. Is there anyone else that you have strong opinions on in this cast?
You know, we've seen a couple episodes. As season 1 paying homage to season 2, I followed a lot of them on Instagram. I wanted to support. I sent a lot of DMs. Hey, so excited for season 2. I'm so glad the show got renewed. I hope you had the time of your life. If something happens and your time in the game ends and you're feeling like, mentally it's a lot or whatever, like lean on season 1. We've been there, like, try. It's like a family. We're a DONDI family now, right? But then you see some of these people getting on social media, CK being one of them, not saying like the nicest things, which I'm not calling anybody out because America can see. Just saying things that shouldn't probably be said because we're supposed to be
Maria,
That's
right?
what I'm getting to. Like, CK was like, season 1, who, what? And I'm like, honey, we're the OGs. We gave you something to look at to see how the game is played. Like, if you didn't like any of us, cool, but don't act like you don't know who anybody from season 1 was. And then Maria Grace, that she's been answering, Q&As on her Instagram or whatever. And I thought she's a sweet little cute Southern girl. I'm from Oklahoma, the South. So I wanted to love her, but then some of the comments she's made in response to players that have been sent home, Sydnee, I'm just like, I don't know. You're not a fan favorite anymore. Or you're not a fan favorite. You're not an Amy favorite anymore because I did like Maria Grace. She was up there with Seychelles, just off initial like season 1 and some of the stuff I've seen on social media. But she kind of said some ugly things that I think that were not fair to any player that's been eliminated thus far. So she's at the bottom of my rankings now. She was at the top, but she's at the bottom now because whether this is a game or not, you have to have integrity outside of the game. Like I said in the beginning, people have real lives, real careers, real friends. Like this TV show will heavily edit and create you as a character in the game. That the character is not who you are in real life. Steph is not a horrible villain. Steph is a doctor who saves women's lives every day, who gives them a platform. I am a mom of 3. I am a wife. Like, that is my number 1. So when you say things that compromise someone's integrity or what you want America to view them as, that's not fair to me. And I don't think that's the DONDI family or platform is a way to degrade others. So Maria Grace and CK are at the bottom of my list. They're not my favorites. I wish them well. I hope if they went on to win, good for them. I hope they do good things with the money. But outside of the game, you have to be a decent human. And I'll just leave it at that. Yes on TV, you can play a character. You can be edited to be whatever you want to be. I'm not a monster in real life, regardless if America thinks that. But when you are a castmate of another, or season 1, season 2, like I feel like we're a big DONDI family. Have some integrity with your words and what you say, because you are messing with someone's personal life, mental health, family, like people's friends, family, fiance, cousins, mom that read this stuff, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to hear someone talk so negatively about another human being. It's uncalled for. It does nothing to boost you in the real world. And I'm gonna leave it at that. But no, they are not my top two.
Maybe it's early here in the season and lessons can be learned
absolutely.
This is maybe some things that are being said. Maybe people learn some things from this and it gets a little better. And maybe they win you back. Maybe they do something to impress you along the way.
Right.
Who knows?
I hope they do. I hope they do win me back. And by winning me back, just be kind. Be kind. Apologize for any misconception you might have put out there. I don't know. I learned a lot about myself on the island. I'm not perfect by no means. I've probably said things I wish I could take back. So I know we're all human. I know that we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, but I just hope at the end of the day that people you have compassion for others as humans and not just characters on a show.
Well said, Amy.
Hey, Steph, did you have anything else in your notes that you wanted to touch on while we still have Amy here?
Yes. Storm is getting a Jordan edit. So if these editors continue along the same pathway, I fear you may be having the same modality that you employed last time. Season 1, please don't do that. We want to see more of Storm. If Storm goes and takes this whole thing, I'm going to be very sad that you gave him a Jordan edit. So I want to say that. Let's see if there's anything else. I really also want to say when Dixon hopped on David's back, I cringed. That was very cringy. When Dixon grabbed David's hands and they ran through the swamp, I thought it was very cute and endearing, but also I'm beginning to get uncomfortable.
So let me ask you this. I'm sorry, Jack. So a lot of social media are saying that's the Aaron and Rob 2.0. Do you get Aaron and Rob 2.0 vibes from that, Steph? Jack?
Yes, that's exactly how I feel about it. They're completely different characters, but the idea of this sort of David Goliath sort of situation is something that feels very familiar. They're two obviously very completely different people, but it feels very familiar. I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
I think the reason why it's making you cringe is like Dixon's probably 25 or 26. David's like 40. So, I mean, that'd be like if I started calling like Stephanie LaGrossa my mom and just treated her like she was my mom. She's not. She's like more like a big sister, Like it's kind of, I don't know. So I think that's probably it. It would be more like, I don't know, if I think of like father figures in my life. So I'm 30. I've got some mentors of mine. The mentors that I have that are father-like figures, and I love my dad too. It's not like they're any replacement to my father. They're all in their 60s. Like they're old enough to be my dad. David is not old enough to be Dixon's father.
Right. It just is a little strange. There is a little strange. And let's see what else I thought was something else. Oh, Letty. This was something I wrote down. I thought it was really funny. Where Letty says, there were rats in our case, at least 100. I'm like, girl, there was like 12 rats at best.
Okay, Letty. It's funny you mentioned Letty. I haven't sold my Letty stock yet. I was high on her in the first episode. Kind of a little more of a quiet episode, not a lot of her in this one, but it's funny because I feel like you're going to see, maybe it alternates back and forth, but you're seeing more of like the angry jock girl version of Letty, which is like, I don't know, every jock girl, and I say this in the most flattering way because those are like some of my greatest friends, and they all have like a mean streak in them. It's that competitor, that kind of mean face they have. I feel like we're seeing a little bit of that with Letty, but then like I think we're also going to see her alternate to like pageant girl Letty, which is going to be like the big smile and waving and
yes,
I think what
a lot.
I think once she figures out like who, because we're so early, and I think once she figures out who she can actually trust, I think we'll see a softer side of her. But to go back to the David and Dixon, that's why I think it's cringe. Because when I was like, that is so cringy, because I don't think they're old enough, like big brother, big sister, cousins, whatever. I just don't think that Parvati and David are old enough to be parents to someone of his age. So that, to me, that's why it's cringy. I'm like, you had him at 10 and 11. Like, I don't know. That's why it's cringe. Calling mom and dad is just too much for me because that's not even close to what it could be in real life. You know, I don't know. That's why I called it cringe. I just want to clear that up.
Yeah, Clarence Black from Survivor Africa. I sometimes call him like Big Brother, like, you know, I'll say like Big Bro or whatever. And he's probably like close to 50, and I'm just turned 30. So that's almost a 20-year gap. I'm not even calling someone that's 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
Dad. That's weird.
Yeah,
It is weird.
That's why it's cringe to me. It's just I'm just like, oh, can we have a better name for this? Take your son to work day. Like, that's just too much. That's just too much.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I mean, if he was calling Rock Dad, it'd be different.
Maybe. Like, I don't even know how old Rock is. Like, I mean,
Rock's in his 60s.
Okay, so I didn't think that either. I thought he doesn't. I don't know. Maybe that might make more sense. I would still probably call Rock Uncle. Maybe. I mean, I'm 43, so maybe he's old enough to be my dad too. But I just don't get mom, dad, like uncle, sister, cousin. I don't know. Mom and dad just creep me out.
Well, when I hang out with Kim, I call Kim Mama Kim. And like when we hang out, like you would, everyone thinks that we're like mother and son hanging out because you see us hanging out. You'd be like, "Why are these people hanging out with each other?" You know?
Yeah.
So cute. I think this
I
is
won't
different.
give away her age. Different.
No, it feels different. It maybe is a little bit on the disrespectful side, in fact, but Dixon doesn't see it that way, so he's entitled to feel how he feels. But from the outside looking in, I'm like, first of all, I'm not calling. As a grown woman, I'm not calling nobody dad. Like, get out my face with that. But if he doesn't feel that way about it, he's entitled to feel how he feels. I chuckled when he grabbed David's hand and ran him through the swamp like a toddler. It's some endearing moments. So I'd like to see how that develops.
Yeah, Dixon has put himself in a pretty good position. Like, he's going to be protected by two big, powerful players. But at the same time, if you swing and you can't get mom or dad, then you're going to go after son. You know what I mean? So he's like put himself in a good position, but he's also put himself in a very vulnerable position.
Yeah.
So I'm with Steph. I want to see how that plays out. I really do.
It's a really
because
good
mom
read.
and dad will sacrifice him in a heartbeat before they go home.
Right.
In a minute.
Well, I keep seeing the promo when I'm watching football on Sundays, and it's like Deal or No Deal Island, and they show him opening his case and everyone is celebrating. So like that makes me, they give away too much with that.
I don't like those. Yeah.
There's going to be a time where he plays and we're going to think he wins. Now, that doesn't mean that he wins because he opens the case and they all celebrate, but it sure looks like it.
Yeah. Or, maybe he plays the banker 2 or 3 times and that's the first of the 3. Right. But it lets you know.
No, I didn't mean that he wins the whole show. I mean when he plays the banker.
He wins against the banker. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but it definitely lets you know he plays.
Anything else, Dondi? Because I've got something totally unrelated to Dondi for Amy. I've been waiting to ask her for like a whole hour.
Oh my goodness.
If there's anything else, Dondi, I want to make sure we don't miss it.
The only last thing, which is a little bit different, was in this particular, this is the first time we got to see 2 people play against the banker. And so that was a little bit of a different dynamic. And I will say, I don't love that. But I do appreciate how the banker keeps us on our toes. We never know what's coming around the corner. But I was like, I wasn't feeling that at all. But other than that, I thought it was an action-packed episode. It was well put together. I appreciated the commentary. And I am just looking forward to episode 3.
The last thing I have to say about Dondi is I am so surprised that the banker is a woman. I've been racking my brain because it's made apparent she. And I'm like, some of the evil things we had to go through, snakes, heights, the mud, I about drowned in the mud. I'm like, besides Howie, who else is this twisted to come up with the craziest things like this? So I'm very, very intrigued of who this female banker could be. So
well, Amy cares about the banker. I had my hot.
I was about to say, Jack don't care.
Don't care. Yeah, I don't care.
I think it's a singer. I think it's going to be someone who's an artist, a performer. Watch it be somebody like a Reba McEntire or like somebody we don't like completely.
What if it's Sia? After Sia would do the prize money for Survivor.
Oh my goodness! What if?
I'm hoping so bad. Like, this is just me being very selfish. I'm hoping so bad it's Jordan. Because Jordan went through every single excursion. She knows how grueling it was. I've heard people say, the last episode, the tightrope, that was a breeze. Why did you guys struggle on that? That was so incredibly hard. So I'm hoping it's Jordan, sweet little Jordan that nobody would ever expect, coming up with the most craziest things. So
that's good.
Selfishly, I hope it's Jordan, but there's no telling. There's no telling who it is.
Amy, I want to know, diehard Cowboys fan.
Can you see my room? You see the room? The Cowboys room?
Are you ready for Coach Prime?
Man, if we could... Okay, now I've done messed up my camera. If we could get Coach Prime, I would be so elated. I'm a huge Buckeyes fan, so when we had Zeke, or when rookie year Zeke came in with Dak, I was on cloud 9 because I'm a huge Buckeyes fan, and he came to my favorite NFL team, and then they've just been trash ever since. But as a Cowboys fan, you just have to roll with it. But I love Neon Dion. Obviously, huge Cowboys fan. I love him. I think that he could totally turn the organization around. I think being a player and an all-star player, and then he's turned Colorado around. Like, his kids are shining stars. So his son won the Heisman. So I think he just has something innately built into him. Like, he can connect with these boys on a level of excellence because he was excellent. If that happens, I will be in. Like, we go to several Cowboy games a year, and even if we're trash, if I get to look at Coach Prime on the sideline, because I think he's pretty hot, I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
Correction: Travis Hunter won the Heisman, not Shedeur Sanders.
Oh, well, he calls Travis his son too. So in my mind, that's his kiddo.
Dad.
Dad and mom. Yes. But when he does all the press, he's like, he's my other son. He's like my son. So I look at him as like a son. But yes, he coached a Heisman athlete, So I don't know.
You're in. You want it. You want
I'm all in. Gray beard and all, I'm all in.
It will be. So I talked to a Dallas Cowboys stadium operations employee. It's funny that I'm saying this on this podcast and not on my sports podcast, because I feel like I'm giving some tea here, giving a scoop.
Give me all the tea.
It was a month ago, and now keep in mind he works in the stadium operations. He's not in the front office. He doesn't have any scoops, nothing like that.
Right.
But I asked him. I said, "Who do you think is going to be a next head coach?" Because we were talking about McCarthy being a lame duck coach coming into the season. It was like even last year where it was surprising that he didn't get fired to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, and then they had this horrible year. So I'm like, who do you think the next head coach is going to be? And he's like, you know what? I think it's going to be Dion. And the reason I say that is because with Jerry, everything with Jerry is business over performance.
And
it's like, how can we get the most amount of people talking about the Cowboys, the most amount of eyeballs on the Cowboys, because then the business goes up in value. I mean, the investment he made on the Cowboys and what they're worth now and building that stadium, he's a tremendous businessman. And he said the way to do that, for it to even go up even more, you get Coach Prime coaching the Cowboys. Yeah. That is the biggest story in sports. So
yeah, and he's gonna, he's made a name for himself at Buffalo, and so that whole community will be cheering for his success. I think it's a great move, and I really hope they do that. My husband about 2 years ago said we need to get rid of McCarthy, and we need somebody that can relate to these boys that know how to play the performance level that they need. Like, they need someone to look up to and take seriously. And I'm sorry, like, when I see, and you guys know, y'all heard me on TV, I'm just gonna, say what's on my mind. But when you have an overweight coach that couldn't even run down, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna, like, if I'm trying to lose weight and my trainer is 500 pounds, I'm not gonna be motivated. If I'm trying to lose weight and my trainer is ripped with abs and sticks to an eating diet plan, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, she knows her stuff. So I feel like if you put someone in position that someone really idolizes and knows that they've been through what you need to get to, I'm all in.
Speaking of Mike McCarthy, he just interviewed with my Bears today. I am not in on Mike McCarthy coaching the Bears. Please, no, I've seen enough.
I was about to ask you because I know apparently he wanted to interview with the Bears a couple weeks ago and Jerry said no, but then they cut him, so now he can. So I'm like,
They blocked him from interviewing with other teams. Now he is interviewing with, I think he's interviewing with the Saints also. Mike McCarthy, I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he's probably an average NFL coach. But there are other coaching candidates that I would much rather see the Bears hire.
I think it's time for him to, I loved Dan Quinn. I think he was a great coach when we had him. I mean, obviously he wasn't the head coach. He was a coordinator, but I think Dan Quinn was a good coach. I wouldn't have minded seeing the Cowboys go that direction, but I think it's time for McCarthy to retire and enjoy life.
He might be a good college coach. I could see him running a good offense in college.
Yeah, not NFL though. He needs to retire from NFL. Yeah.
But did you watch Hard Knocks?
With the oh no, I didn't
with
watch
the Cowboys when the Cowboys were Hard Knocks.
I did watch it with the Cowboys. The Cowboys and the Lions are my favorite Hard Knocks ever, and I'm hoping that Detroit wins the Super Bowl because I love Dan Campbell so much. But I've only watched Hard Knocks, the Lions, and the Cowboys. That's it. I haven't watched anybody else.
Well, on Hard Knocks, I remember, this is funny, he gave some speech. McCarthy would give these speeches, and it's like, you're supposed to think it's funny, but I just didn't, we were all kind of rolling our eyes watching as a family.
Yeah.
One of the speeches, he said, high school Harry, he don't work here no more. He's not around here no more. My family refers to him as high school Harry now.
I mean, because he's high school Harry. You have been high school Harry the past 3 years, bro. Come on now.
Okay, well, Now I know that Amy and I are going to co-host a Hard Knocks podcast.
Yeah,
I'm all the way in for that. I love football.
This was great. Amy, why don't you tell us how people can follow you, or if there's anything that you want to plug or promote, go ahead and tell people where to find you, if you want them to.
I'm going to tell you guys, but if you send me any more hate mail, I'm just going to block you, okay? My inbox is full of crap from last year that I just haven't even read. So it's at OKC Amy. OKC, what is mine? OKC Amy McCoy. I don't even know where you can find me. OKC Amy McCoy. I'm not very active on Twitter. I think Twitter is just the worst. People just have no, they just hate me.
It's going to be positive now.
Yeah, it's going to be positive now, but at OKC Amy McCoy, I'm really active on Instagram. That's probably the most. And I do, if somebody sends me something nice, I do try to engage. I really appreciate people supporting season 1 and season 2 of DONDI. I think it's a great show, and I think it does change lives. A lot of people left with a significant amount of money. So I love the show. If you're a hater, I'm just going to block you, so don't waste your time.
So true.
Thank you so much, Amy. This is great. I'm sure we'll do it again at some point soon.
Thank you so much, Amy. Love your commentary. Yes.
Thank you guys so much. And be kind people. Be nice in the world. Don't be jerks. That's all I have to say.
That's it.
How about that, Steph? Wasn't that fun?
That was great. Amy gives some wonderful insight. Loved hearing from her.
When was the last time you saw her? This is a video call that you got to have with her. When was the last time you did that?
I saw Amy in New York in January at an event for Deal or No Deal, and last year, and I'm looking forward to seeing Amy again. I'm actually going to see her in about another week and a half in Nashville, where Deal or No Deal season 1 gets together for a little mini reunion. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Be fun, yeah. Well, it was great having Amy on, and I've had her on a couple times before, and this was, I think, the third time. And it's always great to get a chance to talk a little sports, too. We'll have Kim on at some point soon. Kim and I are going to probably hijack the show and talk Bears football for 30 minutes.
That's cool. I love it. I love to hear it.
So next week, we will have a guest with us again. And I'm going to announce it. And if for some reason this guest has to cancel, we'll still have him on at a later date. Joining us next week is Karsten Bergerson, from
Yes.
the Traitors Love Island. Honestly, I can't even remember if he's Bergerson or Bergenson. I think it's Bergerson.
Okay.
Bergalicious.
Fergie. We know and love him as Bergalicious, so very much looking forward to that. He has great commentary and a lot of insight for competitive reality programming, and I can't wait to hear his insight for Deal or No Deal Island.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We would love it if you guys commented, left a question for Bergie, left a question for Steph, leave a question for me. Anything Dondi related, you could even ask Bergie a Love Island or a Traitors question. We can try to get to some of those. I think we'll have to work in a Traitors segment each week since we're not doing the Traitors podcast this year.
That's a great idea, Jack.
Yeah. We touched on it a little bit today, but yeah, unfortunately, Stephanie LaGrossa and I, neither of us have time to do the long recaps that we did. Now, Steph has been doing some Instagram lives. If you guys want to hear her thoughts, she's been on Instagram Live a little bit. She went live with Rachel Riley today. This is a very pro Rachel Riley podcast as well.
Yes.
So you guys can check that out. And then, we can give a little bit of Traitors thoughts on this show, because I imagine if you're watching Deal or No Deal Island, you're also watching Traitors, right?
Hello, totally.
If you're not, you should check it out. It's a pretty fun
show.
You
should totally check it out. It's great. Right. It's a great show.
All right, Steph, you're on social media at Dr._midwife on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I think we've got 3 more days left to TikTok, or
we've got 3 more days. I mostly am there for fun and commentary. I usually have great things to say and talk about. Be nice. I'm a nice person. Be nice to me, and I'll be nice back. If you are not nice to me, I will be not nice back. I have very low level of decorum that I maintain on social media because I'm here for a good time. So as you can find me on the internet, I love good commentary. I love following people who are interesting, and find me there. We have a good time.
You guys can follow me at Jack Vita Show, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I got on the talk too lately, and I'll be also probably be getting off the talk unless they force a sale here. It was pretty funny. I had a TikTok get 120,000 views the other day, and it's like I'm so glad I got on this platform as it's dying. Like this is great.
Like, people don't understand how wonderful you are, Jack, in terms of like your ability to pull out commentary. You ask wonderfully insightful questions, and no matter what platform you go to, people are in for such a treat with your interview style and all of that. So they're very lucky if they come across you on any platform. So
you're too kind. Well, we'll see whatever the next app is that replaces TikTok, or stay tuned next week when we find out whatever happened to TikTok. We'll be back next week. We'll cover episode 3. We'll have an exit interview with the episode 3 eliminated contestant. Go back and check out if you missed it. Last week I talked with Luke, the first boot. This week talked with Sydnee. You guys can check out those interviews. And until next time, I'm Jack Vita, bringing the dancing lobsters.